taxi? And if it can, what safety and regulatory safeguards must come with it? The Karnataka High Court had already ruled in favor of the bike taxi operators and motorcycle owners. It held that operating a taxi is a legitimate business protected under Article 19, Subclause 1, Part G, and said the authorities could not reject applications merely because the vehicle was a motorcycle. The High Court also directed the authorities to consider applications for registering motorcycles as transport vehicles and granting permits. Karnataka has now challenged that very position. And the state's argument is essentially this: a motorcycle may be capable of carrying a pillion passenger, but that does not automatically make it a passenger taxi. The government says motorcycles lack many of the passenger safety features that are found in cars and autos. It has specifically raised concerns over accident vulnerability, insurance coverage, and in cases of death or serious injury, women's safety as well. Add to that list. The state is also pointing to a regulatory gap. Karnataka's existing 2016 aggregator rules were framed for four-wheeled motor cabs, not for motorcycles. And the government says there is no clear mechanism to convert a privately registered white board motorcycle into a yellow board commercial passenger vehicle. There is another important legal point. The union government told the parliament in March that bike taxi is not defined under the Motor Vehicles Act or its rules. Karnataka's argument is that the absence of an express ban does not automatically create a legal right to operate a bike taxi. But the other side has a very different logic. For aggregators, riders and commuters, bike taxis are about affordable mobility and livelihoods. A two-wheeler is cheaper to operate than a car. It can navigate Bengaluru's congestion more easily, and for riders, it can provide a flexible income stream. Karnataka itself says it is not banning motorcycles as a livelihood option altogether. Riders can continue delivery and logistics work for platforms such as Swiggy, Zomato, Amazon, Flipkart, you know the likes. But riders also argue that passenger trips are another important source of income, and restricting them could take away potentially valuable gig economy opportunity. And then there is the environmental argument. Karnataka claims that restricting bike taxi operations could potentially prevent around 1.39 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions every year, whilst also easing congestion and strengthening public transport. So, on one side, safety, insurance, regulation, public interest, and on the other, affordability, mobility, competition, and livelihoods. And that is what makes this more than just a fight between the government and the few aggregators out there. The Supreme Court's eventual decision could determine whether India's bike taxi economy expands, gets tightly regulated, or faces major restrictions. So, should bike taxis be banned because they are inherently riskier, or regulated precisely because people are already using them? Let's put that to our panelists. Dhruv Jati, Congress spokesperson, with us on the broadcast. Tanveer Pasha, President, Karnataka State Auto and Taxi Federation, and Mr. Basuraj Itnal, Senior Journalist. Many thanks, Mr. Itnal, and gentlemen, many thanks for taking out the time. First and foremost, to the Congress spokesperson. Sir, see, we've been having a lot of conversations with the Congress voices. It was Mr. Satya Prakash, I think, last time around over here, and he made it quite clear that, see, this is being, heard in the Karnataka High Court, and after that, the Karnataka High Court came through with an observation that a regulation is must. You can't simply put a blanket ban on all of this. Now, you've got a new chief minister and you've taken a complete U-turn. If the government's concern is safety, why not regulate the taxis with mandatory permits and the likes of it?
Well, I have a very simple question to ask you, and that's with the liability gap over here. Please tell me which out of these companies, whether it is Ola, Uber, Rapido, which one of them take liability for any of the behavior of the drivers or their actions? Have you seen any cases where they have taken liability? It all switches on to the pillion. Now, tomorrow, if there is any issue, especially regarding women's safety in the state of Karnataka, who are you going to blame? Who are you going to blame? Isn't the blame going to fall directly on the government?
If I were to act as the devil's advocate, I could say that the blame would also fall on the government because it's been so long, and the government could come up with new legislation for the same, a new regulatory framework for the same, wouldn't it be?
I would love to discuss frameworks and regulatory measures, but the issue is currently sub judice. It's going to be heard in front of the Supreme Court, and we have to listen to what the Supreme Court says. There are hurdles even from the union government. You mentioned it yourself. Two different standoffs between what the union government and the state says, and it's important that the Supreme Court gives us clarity on it. Simply because there is an absence doesn't mean that these vehicles can function over here. There are a lot of loopholes that come into picture, and I don't think in any way it is a hindrance to the economy in terms of the livelihoods of these drivers who earn off it, simply because today, whether it is any of these apps, they're allowed to pick up food and deliver it to other places, and they are actively using that as a mechanism. The only limitation comes for safety and security reasons, and which I think should not be compromised at any state, not just Karnataka, in any state, in fact.
I mean, it's working out well in the national capital. I do agree. You have a massive point when you say that, insurance and it all falls on the pillion. What about women's safety? The safety angle, whether you're on the meeting end of the accident or you're the one who's driving the bike, those are some critical points that do need to be looked at. But when you talk about last mile connectivity...
Let me take you back to April 2025. I'm sure you must have played that viral video in your show as well. There was a video of a woman who went jumping off a bike taxi to escape the driver because there was an attempt to sexual assault.
Yeah.
So you see who took responsibility behind that? Are you going to hold the government accountable? Are you going to hold the driver accountable? Are you going to hold the taxi organization accountable? Who is going to...
Well, first and foremost, we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty, but I think, first and foremost, we're going to hold the rider accountable, the gig worker accountable. If they're allegedly doing this, committing a heinous crime, then they're the ones who are going to be held accountable in the first place. But what about the other plethora of people, the multitude of people who are getting from point A to point B for an affordable cost, cutting through the traffic that Bengaluru throws up each day? That's also an important point to look at. But you see, Dhruv, I'm going to come to you. Dhruv, I'm going to come to you. Let me bring in other players here over here as well. Mr. Pasha, what side do you stand on? Are you pro-taxi? Are you anti-bike taxi? What's your take over here? Because you're the voice of the State Auto and Taxi Federation. Now, I understand the four-wheelers and the auto drivers have a completely different argument to play over here. But there is a livelihood of these gig workers which will also, be thrown into uncertainty. We can't hear you, Mr. Pasha. We can't hear you. Are you on mute? Well, it seems like a little bit of an audio difficulty over there. I'm going to ask the control room to quickly, fix that up and patch that up. Mr. Ritnal, I'm going to come to you next. Yeah, Dhruv, we're going to come to you. Let me bring in other players. Mr. Ritnal, what do you say? Because you see, the government says that the logistic works can continue. The delivery system can continue. So what happens when you meet with an accident whilst you're delivering somebody else's good? That is okay. That is fine. But not when somebody else is sitting behind you and you're taking that person from point A to point B.
During a delivery work, during a gig work like a delivery or in logistics work, there is no passenger that is injured. Probably there is one dosa that is being injured, not a passenger. So point is, there is no entire technical or legal, ecosystem to handle this. For example, autos, three-wheelers in Bangalore, they have a complete legal mechanism to handle that. The Commissioner of Bangalore Police, he licenses the auto drivers, they give a number, they're held to account, and as far as cabs are concerned, there is an emergency button in each and every cab. Emergency button, if they press, it directly goes to police control room. That is made mandatory in Bangalore. I'm sure it is made, there are similar arrangements in Mumbai and Delhi as well. But what has happened is, in case of, these bike taxis, there is no such mechanism. And when we talk about, when you're talking about this,
Lost that line as well, but it seems like Mr. Pasha is back with us. Mr. Pasha, quickly your arguments and I'll go across to Dhruv again.
As I said, first of all, I'm an Indian, proud Indian, and I respect India's laws and whatever the laws. So I am a law-abiding citizen of this country. So first of all, we respect to the law. Where the bikes, whiteboard bikes, only to use for a personal use, while before registration, there is a form for a registration. It is clearly mentioned in that the bikes will not be used for any commercial purpose. The bikes are whiteboard bikes only for a proper personal uses. So from last 8 years, these companies have ran in massive numbers and just eaten the auto and taxi drivers' earnings. my biggest question, whether the law is there in my country or not.
That is incumbent on the government. That is incumbent on the government, no, Mr. Pasha. The High Court has clearly said that create a mechanism where these bike taxis can register themselves as motorcycle taxis.
I tell you, after all doing the crime, then they reach the High Court and Supreme Court. Why these educateds creates the companies, they start the startups, don't they know the book of law, what is there, what is not there? Why don't they represent first with the government, saying that these are the futures, these are the system we coming with, so please give us a license, please give us a mechanism. Why don't they ask, being an educated, being a startup companies, why they completely take over almost crores of rupees investment,
Wait.
Let
me get this straight. You're saying you're going to be okay with it if these startup companies, if these companies, Ola, Uber, Rapido, all of them approach the government and the government creates a mechanism where they can register those white boards into yellow boards, you're going to be fine with it?
Before they start the business, before they start their business, let's go to the government and give their ideology, then they can take a permission. Without a permission, they can run easily, they can get the investment. Later on, if government oppose, then they will reach the court. So this is not the system of my country. Second thing, from last 8 years, legally paying taxes under the mechanism, under the rules of the state and this country, auto-owned taxi drivers are earning. These earnings have been eaten by illegally from these companies, allowing the whiteboard bikes as a taxi, bike taxis. So this is our completely opposition for the system.
Okay, I understand. I'm just here stating the facts and saying that the Karnataka High Court itself in January said that the bike taxis with the white boards can ply, and the government should now find a way how they are going to regulate this.
Let me clear. The High Court has not said that whiteboard can be play. It cannot be play. It is there in the judgment order. In 2013, when Delhi government also went to Supreme Court has instructed clearly to the state government, High Court of Delhi, not to interfere with the injunction orders or any of the movement, because state government has a complete powers to accept or not accept. By whiteboard taxis are illegal. It is
Okay.
2013
Yeah.
Supreme
Traffic
Court
rules
judgment.
is a state subject. I agree. Traffic rules is a state subject. Dhruv, yes. With all due respect, Mr. Ritnal, I'm going to come to you. I think you got a call. Let me go across to Dhruv. I'll come back to you, sir. Dhruv.
See, one thing I want to make very clear is that our party stand on gig workers. People shouldn't misunderstand it. For years together, you have seen our leader Rahul Gandhi ji interacting with gig workers, trying to understand their problems, their troubles, and we have nothing against gig workers. The issue over here is simply with safety, and especially regard to women's safety. Bengaluru, Karnataka is the IT hub of India. We need to make sure that we don't have any issues regarding women's safety. That's primary. Secondary is definitely, I agree, as somebody who is a citizen myself, it is affordable. Bike taxis are affordable. I am not saying it is not affordable. But there has to be regulation that is brought in, which is why now that it is a sub judice matter in front of the Supreme Court, we will get more clarity on it, not just for the state,
What
but
kind of clarity will we get?
beneficial.
Because the Karnataka government is going there to say that we're not going to be bringing in regulation. At least that's what the headlines from Bar and Bench, from Live Law, from all those legal websites are telling us. That,
No, see, it's a sub judice matter. It's a sub judice matter. You have to listen to the arguments of the state government and the Advocate General and his counsel when it is brought in front of the Supreme Court. I don't think it is fair enough.
Are you saying,
assume
okay, fine. Let's not probe this further. I'm just trying to understand, is there any room for a regulation to be brought in? Is there any room for a regulation to be brought in?
I can guarantee you one thing. We are a government, and our leader, Rahul Gandhi ji, is a leader who attends to all sections of society. Gig workers are very important for our country, for our state, and in terms of making affordability for the middle class in Karnataka.
Okay.
So their issues will definitely be heard before the arguments are made in front of the Supreme Court.
And just a quick question, because I don't see Mr. Ritnal with me here. As soon as he comes back, the control room should let me know. I'm just saying that, you see, when the logistics and the delivery is being done, I understand there is no pillion who's sitting at the back and their life is not in danger. But what about this driver who goes and rams into somebody who's crossing the road, and then that person does not have an insurance? Who is accountable in that particular case?
Shouldn't the company take some level of liability?
Yeah, so
Shouldn't they
so
take
the
some level of
government,
liability?
so the government should
So
make
why do
way.
they not? So why do they not take liability when there is an accident of a pillion?
Yeah, the
That is
government
my
should
simple
force
question.
that
Why do they
liability on
hide
the
away
companies.
from
The
it?
government should force that liability on the companies. Mr. Itnal, many thanks for staying with us. Your assessment, sir, we lost you, in the midway. This is turning out to be who should be earning money, whose life should be thrown into uncertainty, where is the legal standing here? All of that is coming into play. There are several layers and factors. And just to say that it's sub judice, because clearly the headlines can spell for themselves. The Karnataka government does not want to bring this regulation. At least that's what the headlines are telling us right now.
No, I'm going to talk to you on a commonsensical basis. Now, if you look at the accidental statistics, accident records of Bangalore traffic, the accident record is very high on two-wheelers. There are more two-wheelers facing the accidents than any kind of vehicles in Bangalore. Maybe from point A to point B, they can reach earlier. That's one thing. Another thing is they're whiteboard. That's why they're cheaper. The moment when the government of Karnataka is asked to make a law, they will certainly register them as commercial vehicles. Once they register them as commercial vehicles, including logistics and gig workers, the moment they register as in commercial vehicles, they are going to be costlier than the autos, three-wheelers. Because right now, if you look at any kind of app, Rapido, Ola, Uber, whatever, the price differential between, for any trip, the price differential between an auto ride and a Rapido bike ride is very less. It's very less.
Yeah.
That is because Rapido or a bike taxi is whiteboard. When you make it a yellow board, they are going to pay higher taxes and hence it becomes costlier. So this is, you cannot be having a passenger and a commercial operations on a whiteboard. That's a very
If the choice is between a complete ban and strict regulation, what side would you choose here, Mr. Itnal?
No, more important to me is the safety of the both rider and the passenger. When a bike meets an accident, it's not only the passenger, even the rider. Whether it is livelihood or not, no livelihood is more important than the life itself.
Yeah.
Than the life
absolutely.
itself.
Okay.
Even the rider is at risk. Even the rider is at risk. Because of potholes, you are seeing accidents in Bangalore.
Yeah.
Because of potholes, people are dying on two-wheelers.
We've seen those similar cases. You remember the Domino's free delivery, the 30 minutes are free. We spoke about the safety of the riders. For all the 10-minute delivery, we spoke about the safety of the riders.
Absolutely. That is crazy. Kabir, that is really crazy. 10 minutes delivery, that's crazy. Zepto and whatever the apps, that should not be there. You cannot rush that,
So you're saying lives should matter, lives are paramount. The Congress spokesperson saying it's sub judice. We'll wait for the Supreme Court to come out and determine exactly what's happening. And to the person from, the voice of the autos and the taxi unions, Mr. Pasha, do you think a complete ban is the way to go, or you're okay with strict regulation if it comes? Registration, yellow plates, the taxes, all of that. Strict regulation, and then you're going to be okay with it.
Complete ban.
Complete ban. So then what happens to all those other people that are trying to earn money? What happens to them?
Let them come to auto and bike taxi segment.
And what if they can't afford it? This is a very dictatorial statement that's coming through.
There is our Karnataka state government, Mr. D.K. Shivakumar sir, is giving subsidies. So state will avail the subsidies. So better to choose the best way of the public transport where the safety is a major concern. Let them enjoy their travel, not on the bike.
Yeah. Maybe tomorrow you'll start protesting against the metro also, the Namma metro, because you want everybody to come to the taxis and the autos.
We never, sir. We never.
This is turning out to be a little one-sided. Okay, fine. We'll wait for, what kind of arguments happen at the Supreme Court. And since it's sub judice, we leave it at that particular point. But, something's got to give. We have to understand really what's at play. I think one paramount point is that for commuters, it's about affordability. For riders, it's about the livelihood. And for the government, it is clearly about the safety. The answer need not be ban versus business, but the real question is, can Karnataka really build a framework? On that note, I'm going to leave you. Gentlemen, many thanks for taking out the time. Mr. Itnal, Dhruv, always a pleasure to have you with us. Hopefully, we get a chance to speak to you again on this matter. And Mr. Pasha, many thanks for putting your points across as well. All right, then, shifting our focus to the final segment on In Your Interest. There was quite a riveting discussion. Let's hope for good sense to prevail on that particular front. But this other segment is also about logistics, not about delivery, but what is being delivered. Because what exactly are we getting when we order the food online in minutes? Quick commerce. Isn't that the moot point here? A packet of fruits, vegetables, snacks, dairy products, they can reach your doorstep before you've even finished making the decision to order them. But behind that convenience is a massive network of warehouses and dark stores. And the question is, how